Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to speak to you about the unspeakable, about this defendant's goal-directed, planned, systematic murder, mass murder of 14 children, an athletic director, a teacher, and a coach. These brutal murders occurred at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, and it happened on February the 14th, 2018. 3 days before these brutal murder, this massacre, the defendant in this case made a cell phone video on his cell phone. And this is what the defendant said. "Hello, my name is Nick. I'm going to be the next school shooter of 2018. My goal is at least 20 people with an AR-15 and some tracer rounds. It's going to be a big event. And when you see me on the news, you'll know who I am. You're all going to die. Ah, yeah, I can't wait. Ah, yeah, I can't wait." Cold, calculated, manipulative, and deadly. Now, Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School is located at 5901 Pine Island Road in Parkland, Florida. It's bordered by Homburg Road on the north side, the Sawgrass Expressway on the south side, Pine Island Road on the east side, and on the west side is Coral Ridge Drive. But and you'll see a map, before you get to Coral Ridge Drive to the west, there's West Glades Middle School, and then a Walmart, and then there's Coral Ridge Drive. You'll see that Marjory Stoneman High School kind of resembles a college campus. There was approximately 13 buildings spread out over the campus. Most of the buildings were 1- and 2-story buildings, except for one. The one building that is not a 1- or 2-story building is a 3-story building, and it's known as the 1200 building or the freshman building. The 1200 building is located on the northeast side of the campus. So it's bordered on the north by Homburg Road and Pine Island on the east. It's a 3-story building, and there's 2 entrances to the 1200 building. There's an entrance on the east side, and there's an entrance on the west side. And both those east and west entrances open up to the first floor hallway. The entrances are a double door on the east side and a double door on the west side. And to the right of those double doors, there's a secondary door, both on the east side and on the west side. And this secondary door leads up into the first floor landing of the stairwell. And the stairwells go up to the 3rd floor, both on the east side and on the west side. There are 10 classrooms on each floor of the 1200 building. There are 6 classrooms on the south side of the hall. There's 4 classrooms on the north side of the hall, and that holds true for the 1st floor, 2nd floor, and the 3rd floor. And Marjory Stoneman Douglas, back on February the 14th, 2018, had a surveillance system, and there are approximately 76 cameras that spread out through the campus. And these cameras were motion activated. And what that means is they have to detect motion before they record. So if there's nothing moving, they don't record. In the 1200 building, there were 13 cameras. There were 3 cameras on the 1st floor, 3 cameras on the 2nd floor, and 3 cameras on the 3rd floor. And these cameras are installed in the ceiling. So there's a camera on the east side in the ceiling, a camera in the center in the ceiling, and a camera on the west in the ceiling, 3 cameras, and there's 3 cameras in the ceilings on the 1st floor, 2nd floor, and 3rd floor. The camera on the east side, up on the ceiling, focuses west. The camera in the center of the ceiling focuses west. The camera on the west side focuses east. And that's true for the first floor, second floor, and the third floor. And there are 2 additional cameras in each stairwell. There's one on the third floor of the stairwell, one on the second floor of the stairwell. And that's true for the west stairwell and the east stairwell. There are 13 cameras in the 1200 building. There are no cameras in the classrooms. There are no cameras in the classrooms. And again, these cameras are motion activated. So you will see a surveillance video from the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School from February the 14th, 2018. You will see the defendant on the first floor fire a rifle, shoot and kill 9 students, the athletic director, and a coach. And the athletic director and the coach were both campus monitors. You will see the defendant fire his rifle 6 times on the second floor. And you will see him shoot and kill 5 students on the third floor and a teacher on the third floor. You will see him wound 13 other students on the floor, and you'll see him wound 3 other students on the third floor and wounding of a teacher. You will not see every single second of that surveillance video. You're going to say, why? Because it's what? It's motion activated. When the defendant fired his rifle, the percussion in the hallway was so loud that it caused the ceiling tile, the dust from the ceiling tile, to fall down. And when the dust from the ceiling, and it looks like smoke, and when it comes down, it prevented the cameras from detecting some of the motion of the defendant. But most of it is there, and you will see it. The cameras are motion activated. You will also learn that because of the percussion of the defendant firing his rifle, it also affected the fire alarm system. So at 2:20, 2:38, and I'll get back to why that time is important, this fire alarm goes off because the fire alarm system was not able to detect the difference between what? Between smoke and dust. The defendant attended Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School from August the 15th, 2015 to February the 8th, 2017, and he was also a member of the ROTC. Let me take you back to Valentine's Day, February the 14th, 2018. A Uber stops in front of the east gate to Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School. It's a pedestrian gate on the east side on Pine Island Road. It's a female Uber driver. The defendant gets out of the seat, the rear seat of the Uber, I think it was a RAV4, and he gets out and he's carrying a black case and a backpack. Now, school's in session. It's Wednesday, February the 14th, 2018. It's approximately 2:19 p.m. The school starts at 7:40 a.m., Marjory Stoneman Douglas, and the last class ends at 2:40. The gates open in the morning for students to enter and go to class, and then they close. And then they open again, so right before school ends at 2:40, 20 or 30 minutes before. So what? The students can leave the campus. So it's 2:19 p.m. The defendant is carrying a black case and a backpack. And what he has in this case, is a Smith & Wesson 5.56 caliber rifle. And this rifle, basically, it's commonly known as an AR-15. This rifle fires not only 5.56 caliber ammunition, but also fires .223 caliber ammunition. The gun will fire both. This gun is commonly known as an AR-15. It's a semi-automatic rifle. This weapon will fire as many bullets as it contains in the firearm magazine. And this is the way this 5.6 Smith & Wesson M&P 15 TF 16214 is the serial number. This is the way this gun operates. What you do is you load the firearm magazine with bullets. And the bullet is about like this for a 5.56 and a .223. And you put those bullets in the magazine, you load them in the magazine, and the bullets will go in as many as the magazine will hold. So if it's a 40-round magazine, you can stick in 40 bullets. If it's a 30-round magazine, you can stick in 30 bullets. So you fill up the magazine, and then you take the magazine and with how many bullets you have in it, and you stick it into the magazine well of the rifle. And then you pull back the lever, and you charge a bullet that goes into the firing chamber. You pull the trigger. This weapon will fire as quickly as you can pull the trigger. And that's what the defendant had. And the Uber driver picked up the defendant to bring him to Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School from 7200 Loxahatchee Road. 72 Loxahatchee Road was the home of Kimberly and James Sneed and their son, J.T. Sneed. J.T. Sneed was a friend of the defendants. They both went to Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School together. They were both a member of the JROTC together. And a short time after Thanksgiving of 2017, the defendant came to live with the Sneeds. He had his own bedroom. He was attending school. He was working at the Dollar Tree. The Sneeds took the defendant in and offered him a place to live. Why? The defendant's adopted mother passed away November 1st, 2017. The defendant needed a place to live. The Sneeds made the offer. The defendant moved in with them. And it was a short time after Thanksgiving. These murders happened when? February the 14th, 2018. On this particular, and when the defendant arrived at Marjory Stoneman High School on Wednesday, February the 14th, 2018, he had been planning to be a school shooter long before he moved in with the Sneeds and long before his mother passed away. On this particular Wednesday, on this particular Valentine's Day, the defendant gets out of the Uber. He goes through the passenger gate. He's wearing his backpack. He's carrying his black case. It was a black Cabela bag case with a rifle in it. And he walks about 360 feet from Pine Island Road to the east entrance double doors. He walks in through the east double doors, makes an immediate right-hand turn, and walks in to the bottom floor of the stairwell, of the east stairwell. He takes his rifle out of the Cabela bag, black bag, and as he's preparing his rifle to fire, in walks a student, Christopher McKenna. Christopher McKenna was a student in classroom 1216. 1216 is on the first floor. It's the second classroom from the east double door entrances. Christopher McKenna was out on the bathroom pass, and he was going up to the second floor because the first floor restrooms and the third floor restrooms were were locked. And so the security could watch people go to the second floor because they were concerned about, different activities in the first floor and third floor, kids going there vaping or hiding out or whatever. So for a security measure, they did lock the bathroom doors on the first floor and the third floor. So Christopher McKenna gets a pass from his teacher. It was Miss Haas in 1216. She taught English, approximately 30 students in her class. He gets his pass, walks down the hall, bumps into a couple of kids, and you'll see the video of him bumping fists with two of the students. And he walks into the stairwell as the defendant, Nikolas Cruz, is preparing his M&P 15 rifle. And the defendant says to Christopher McKenna, "You better get out of here. Something bad is about to happen." Christopher McKenna runs out. Remember I described the secondary door that's in the stairwell? He runs out that east door, and he runs to find a campus monitor. When he runs out, the defendant enters the first floor hallway. And when he enters the first floor hallway, there are 4 students in the hallway. He gets out, and he fires his weapon at the 4 students in the hallway. The time, 2:21:33. 2:21:33. The massacre begins. Here's who the 4 students were in the first floor hallway. Ashley Baez was walking west in the hallway in front of classroom 1215. And let me describe what existed on the south side. There's 6 classrooms on the south side. So the first classroom on the south side is 1218. The next class, the numbers aren't, consistent, but the next classroom is 1215, classroom 1215. So sitting in front of classroom 1215 is a student, Gina Montalto. And she asked permission from the teacher in 1215. By the way, it was a personalization class, so you can catch up on your homework and do different things, different from when I went to school, but you can do whatever you want in homework, whatever, like a study hall. So she asked Miss Matlock if she could go out in the hall and work on her computer because it was more private and she could get more work done on her project. Miss Matlock had offered her to go to a different classroom or somewhere else. Gina said, "No, fine, I'd like to do that." So she's sitting, and when you watch the video, you'll see her legs sticking out from the front of classroom 1215. Standing next to her, knocking on the door to classroom 1215, was Martin Duque Aquilano and Luke Hoyer. Martin and Luke were coming back from, and you can get permission to go to other classes. They were coming back from somewhere near the administration building. They had to do something. And you'll see them actually coming back down the corridor and walking in. And you'll see him, one of Luke or Martin, bump fists with Chris McKenna. So they're standing at the door of classroom 1215, and they're knocking to get in, because procedure is when class is in session, the classroom door is supposed to be locked. The defendant fires at Martin Duque Aquilano, Gina Montalto, and Luke Hoyer. He then turns and goes over to classroom 1216. Remember I described that? That's where Christopher McKenna left from. That's Miss Ha's English class, approximately 24 students in there. He fires into 1216. You'll see on all the doors in the 1200 building, there is a glass window in the metal door. And this window is approximately 8 inches wide and 42 inches long. The defendant fired through that window, shattering the window, and shooting and killing Alex Schachter, who was sitting in his desk. The defendant then turns right outside of classroom 1216. He kneels down, he takes off his backpack, unzips his backpack, and pulls out a tactical vest. And you'll see the vest. This vest has pouches all over it so you can stick firearm magazines in it. There were 10 firearm magazines in that black tactical vest. The defendant kneels, takes it out, puts the vest on, takes the expended magazine out of the magazine well of the rifle, and puts in a new magazine. He stands up and he walks over to 1215, where Martin Duque and Lou Coyer and Gina Montaldo were, and he fires into them. And then he fires into classroom 1214. Remember I said there's 1218, then there's 1215, and then there's 1214. And 1214 and 1215 are adjoining. Their doors are right next to one another. The defendant fires through the glass window and shatters it, and fires into classroom 1214. 1214 is a class that was being taught by Ivy Seamus. She was teaching Holocaust history. He fires in to 1214, and he shoots and kills Helena Ramsey. He shoots and kills Nicholas Dorette, and he wounds Samantha Grady, Samantha Fuentes, Isabel Checker, and Daniel. He then turns away from 1214 and walks back across the hall to 1216. And he fires again through the shattered window in 1216. This time he shoots and kills Alyssa Alfadef. He shoots and kills Elena Petty. He wounds Justin Colton. He wounds William Olson. He wounds Genesis Valentin. He wounds Kishaba Magafornian. And he wounds Alexander Dorette, the brother of Nicholas Dorette, who was shot and killed across the hall in 1214. He then turns and walks away from 1216, and he's walking west. At this time, through the west double doors comes running Christopher Hickson. Christopher Hickson was a campus monitor and an athletic director. He comes running through the west doors. The defendant sees him and fires his rifle at Christopher Hickson. Christopher Hickson is hit. He's severely wounded. He falls to the ground, and he crawls over to an alcove on the north side of the first floor hallway. The defendant continues to walk west, and he's walking west. He passes Gina Montaldo, Martin Duque Aquiano, and Lou Coyer again, and he fires into them. Then he proceeds west. Now he goes to classroom 1213. 1213 is now the third classroom from the east side. You have 1217, 1216. Remember, he fired into 1216. Now this is 1213. 1213 is a psychology class being taught by Renette Riobin. And he does, the defendant, Nikolas Cruz, does this again. He fires through that window, shatters the glass, shoots and kills 16-year-old Carmen Shentrum. He wounds Madeline Wilford. He wounds Samantha Mayer. And he wounds Benjamin Wickander. He then turns and walks west again. And as he's walking west, he passes Christopher Hickson. And you'll see it. He turns like this and shoots Christopher Hickson again. He continues to walk west, the defendant does, and he reaches the west stairwell door entrance to the stairwell. And he walks into that door, and as he walks in that door, the outside door, remember I said the secondary door, just like on the east side, on the west side, that door opens. And who is it? It's Coach Aaron Feiss, who's also a campus monitor. Aaron Feiss is the campus monitor that Chris McKenna ran to find to tell him about what he saw. So here's Aaron Feiss opening the door. and as the defendant is walking in the first floor stairwell, he turns and he fires his rifle and shoots and kills Aaron Feist. Aaron Feist is shot twice in the chest. He falls right outside the class, that west outside door. The door closes, and he falls right outside that door. The defendant then goes up the west stairwell. And as he's going up the west stairwell, there are also, as I said, 10 classrooms on the second floor. Now, the teachers and the students, they heard the shots. And when the fire alarm goes off at 2:22:38, the procedure is to evacuate. No, they didn't evacuate. The defendant fired 70 shots on the first floor and 2 shots in the stairwell. So the teachers and students on the second floor, they heard that. So they didn't follow the procedure of evacuating when there's a fire drill. They fired the procedure that if there's an active shooter, you get away from the door and you turn off the lights and you be quiet. And that's exactly what the students and teachers on the second floor did. So when the defendant gets up on the second floor, he looks in a couple of the classrooms and he fires into classroom 1234 and 1231, shatters the windows. There was nobody in 1234 or 1231. He fired 6 shots on the second floor. And he goes to the east side stairwell to go up to the 3rd floor now. Now, the students and the teachers on the 3rd floor, they heard some noises, but they weren't distinct like the students and teachers heard on the 2nd floor of the shots being fired. So they didn't hear like gunfire, they didn't hear shots. But what they did, they were responding to the fire drill. So the classes empty out, they follow the procedures. Some are going to go down the west stairwell, some are going to go down the east stairwell. But when the kids are doing that and they're going down the stairwell, then they hear the gunshots on the 2nd floor. So what do? They race back up the east stairwell and the west stairwell, and they run as fast as they can to get back into their classrooms for safety. So when the defendant walks up the east stairwell, there's a teacher helping his students get into his classroom. His name was Scott Beagle. He was 35 years old, and he was teaching geography in classroom 1256. 1256 is the first classroom from the east side on the north side of the hallway. He has the door open, the kids are going in. The defendant pops out of the east stairwell door and fires into Scott Beagle, killing him. And he falls right in the entrance to his classroom. And next to Scott Beagle's classroom is 1255 on the north side. And that classroom was an English teacher, Stacy Lapel. And she's hustling all the kids to get into her classroom. And she was successful in doing that. But as she's the last one there to close the door, the defendant shoots at her and wounds her. And she closes the door and goes back into her classroom. The defendant continues to fire on the 3rd floor. He's firing from east to west. There are 2 girls, 2 students, Carol Logren and Meadow Pollock. They're in front of classroom 1249 on the south side of the hall. The defendant shoots both of them. And they fall and they go huddle into the alcove of classroom 1249. He fires and hits and wounds Kyle Lehman, Marian Kapichenko, and Anthony Borges. The other students are running away down the hall. They're running from the defendant. He shoots again, and he hits Joaquim Oliver, and Joaquim Oliver ran into the alcove of the men's restroom. Jamie Guttenberg was racing down the hall, get to the stairwell door, and she was shot. Peter Wang, he was doing the same thing. He was running to the stairwell door to run down. He was shot. The defendant then proceeded west again. And as he passes classroom 1249, just as he did on the first floor when he went by Gina Montaldo and Martin Duque and Luke Hoyer and Christopher Hickson, he fires into Carol Logren and Meadow Pollock as they were huddled in the alcove of 1249. He then leaves and moves further west. He looks into the alcove of the men's restroom where Joaquin Oliver was wounded. He was shot in the leg. He couldn't run. The defendant fires into and kills Joaquin Oliver. The defendant then turns and walks further down the hall. Jamie Guttenberg was able to reach the door, but she collapsed on the third floor stairwell, and that's where she died. She died on the third floor stairwell of that building. Peter Wang was shot, and he was lying in the southwest corner, right in front of the west stairwell door. The defendant walks up to him and fires into Peter Wang again. Peter Wang was shot 13. The defendant then looks out this little window in the stairwell on the west side. He turns and he walks over to room 1240. Now, 1240 is not a classroom. It's a teacher's lounge. And teachers go there, I guess, to papers or whatever they're doing, eat lunch, whatever. There's desks in there, and there's a men's room and a ladies' room in there, restrooms, and a couple other rooms attached once you go into the classroom, to the teacher's lounge, 1240. The defendant shoots the glass because 1240 had a glass just like all the other, other rooms, the other classrooms, 8 inches wide, 42 inches long. He shoots through that window and he goes into 1240. Now, when you go into 1240, there's a window on the south side looking over the campus, and there's a window on the west side looking over the campus. And they look over a courtyard, they look over walkways, and they look over parking lots. The defendant fires his rifle at the west window, and you'll see there's 5 bullet holes in the west window, and he fires 5 shots out of the south window. He then leaves 1240. He passes the body of Peter Wang. He opens the west stairwell door. He passes the body of Jamie Guttenberg. He takes off his vest, lays it down on the third floor landing stairwell, takes his rifle, lays it down, and he runs out. The defendant is wearing a maroon JROTC Stoneman Douglas ROTC shirt that students get when they're members of the JROTC. He's wearing black pants, he's wearing a dark blue baseball cap, he's wearing glasses. He runs down the west stairwell, and he runs down and runs out of the door, and he passes Aaron Price. He leaves the 1200 building at 2:27:55. He started his shooting at 2:21:33. He leaves the 1200 building at 2:27:55. He runs west. Then he turns south and runs by the tennis courts. And he runs and blends in with students and teachers who were evacuating the campus. They were evacuating the campus because they heard the fire drill. When the fire alarm goes off, it goes off through the whole campus. So they were leaving. The defendant runs and gets in with the group, and they all go, this whole group of students and teachers, out to Homburg Road to the north. They pass West Glades Middle School. They go out to Homburg Road. The defendant gets to Homburg Road. He goes west. He walks to Walmart, walks through the parking lot, goes into Walmart, Subway sandwich shop that's actually in Walmart. He orders an icy. He leaves a tip, pays for it, leaves a tip, takes his icy, walks out of the Subway, sits on a bench inside Walmart, drinks his icy, there for a couple minutes, gets up, and he leaves. And he walks over to Coral Ridge Drive, and he walks south on Coral Ridge Drive, and he walks to a McDonald's on Coral Ridge Drive. He arrives at the McDonald's at 3:01 p.m. And as he walks into the McDonald's, there's a student there named John Wilford. John Wilford was a student at Marjory Stoneman Douglas. He's sitting at one of the booths. He is the brother of Madeline Wilford, who was shot in classroom 1213. John had no idea what was going on. He certainly didn't know his sister was shot. He's calling, waiting for his mother to pick him up, as a lot of the students were, because they had evacuated. He's sitting at the booth. The defendant, Nikolas Cruz, walks up to him and sits across from him in the booth. And when you see the video, they're going to say, hey, they had to know each other. John Wilford didn't know him. And the defendant asked him for a ride. And John Wilford says, I'm not going to give you a ride. My mom's picking me up. She's going to pick me up. We can't give you a ride. So John's mom arrives in the parking lot. John gets up. The defendant follows him. He goes with him. He said, hey, look, can you give me a ride? He says, look, I told you, I'm not going to give you a ride. I'm going with my mom. So John gets in his mom's vehicle. They leave. The defendant crosses Coral Ridge Drive, and he walks into an area called Wyndham Lakes. It's a development. He's walking in Wyndham Lakes. And about this time, there's an officer who's responding to help other agencies. His name is Michael Leonard. He's a police officer with the Coconut Creek Police Department. And he's looking for a white male wearing a maroon JROTC Marjory Stoneman Douglas collared shirt, polo shirt, and black pants and a dark hat. So he sees Nikolas Cruz walking on Wyndham Lake South. He pulls him over, stops him, the police come, and he's arrested. The defendant is arrested at approximately 3:40 p.m. The location is approximately a mile and an eighth from McDonald's and 2.9 miles approximately from Marjory Stoneman Douglas. The police and the medical examiner's office, after that, arrive at Marjory Stoneman Douglas at the 1200 building. And this is what they find. There are 14 deceased